lesson, not a lesson. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Hello, collective. This is Ellie of HERBCRAFT by Ellie Apothecary. I was channeling that tune about 20-30 minutes ago and felt inspired to do a channeled message, a brief one. If you are catching this in real time, the moon is in Pisces right now. It will be going into Aries the next day in the early morning. Probably not catching this real time. Lately I've been recording off the cuff and releasing later because I've been honoring self-care, rest, and service. Finding that perfect balance between my inner divine masculine and outer divine feminine. However, I mentioned the moon signs because that is the energy I am working with right now. Let's see what card just wanted to come out with Archetypes. The Temple. Beautiful. This is an intentional ASMR message. Black screen. Alethea. Ooh, the maiden at the bottom, but I wasn't going to take that. So hidden energy is a youthful, we'll call it a page energy. Alethea, this card is black and white. Contrast. We were just talking about finding that balance between, well, hello, your inner either divine masculine or divine feminine balance. Pardon me one moment. This card literally shot itself in a drawer. It's Thanatos. Interesting. As far as major astrological transits, though this is a timeless message, Mars goes into Aquarius tomorrow, and tomorrow is 1-2-3, so we are ascending to something. We are taking steps forward. Today was a day of mastery for some, speaking about ascending. The shapeshifter in reverse. We had the shapeshifter come up with my last specific channeled message, not my tarot quest. Those are the long form collective journeys we take as me as a spirit guide, guiding the collective on whatever spirit wants me to bring out as I channel. The last channeled message is called The Prize Is You. That one actually does have the pinned image as the background image, so you can look at the cards. I may or may not do that with this message. I'm improvising, I'm creating, I'm finding my flow with YouTube. Thank you if you have subscribed and joined our spiritual community over here. I really appreciate all your energy that you put out, and I really love creating here. Alright, so with these channeled messages, I typically like to actually do a psychic read on the energy by scrying into the cards, right? What is this? The Castle. This card kind of reminds me of the Cancer zodiac sign with the pearls and the deep feminine and the blue water. Underneath that was the Mentor with the owl. Owls have been coming up a lot. It's a representation of the night, of the hidden, of the occult. Goddess Lilith is represented by the owl. So is the moon. Pisces Cancer representation. We are in a Pisces moon, so very appropriate. Deep feeling, deep healing, going into the subconscious, the deep, the 12th house. Do you know what your 12th house is? I pulled the river. It's got a horse on it. Hello, year of the fire horse. The bardo and the animal and the vessel. We're going to leave those in. I don't feel like going down a dark path today, do you? Nah, we're going to leave that where that lies. The healer. And it has snake on it. We just came, or we're soon approaching with the Chinese New Year, the end of our shedding season, which I also talked about with the prize is you. I'll probably link that at the end of this video in case you want to check out that reading, which I also split into 2 shorter form messages. So it's about 50, as in FIFTY, minutes long. How are y'all doing? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Maybe I'll sing a little in this. I'm resting 'cause it's a blessing, not a lesson. I think a lot of people are learning how to slow down, ironically, as we're about to pick up speed with the fire horse. I just saw the Knight of Wands in my mind's eye in the tarot, the card. I just started channeling those lyrics. Alright, we have a lot of cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The storm and the threshold. Some of you are about to cross the threshold of something that has been very difficult for you. I'm going to stick those up top. Also, solutions are here. The fault line. I'm not going to take that. And the shadow. Some of you have faced great challenges with the darker aspects of yourself, the hidden, the unseen. Again, we're going into the unconscious, the subconscious. Some of you could be doing astral travel. You could be doing dream work. You could be in a spiritual initiation. You could be learning about shamanism, the middle, upper, and lower worlds, which again, astral travel. Some of you are working with animals and tapping into connecting with different life force energies, I'm hearing. Oh, interesting. Some of you are tapping into ley lines. That's not for everyone. I feel like some of you might be interested in the paranormal and an axis of power. Look into that if you don't know what that is. I'm just channeling here. Yeah, the empty room. Another message, we talked about the empty room and how it reminds me of a mirror box, which is a safety technique for empaths when you're learning how to stabilize, and I'm getting chills on the lower half of my body as I say this. You are, that's confirmation, you are learning to stabilize different energies and learning how to take breaks from intense energy. And one way you can do that with the mirror box is you go into a meditation, you make sure you set your protections and that nothing can portal in or out of your reality except yourself, of course, and any trusted guides. And it's one of your safe places where you know that only your emotions can be around you. You can do this anytime, anywhere. There are easier ways you can do this by protecting yourself with white light and all that, but if you really need to step away from a lot of energy, this is a great practice. Look into it more. I also offer spiritual guidance for clients. The Eternal Child, and then the Fault Line again. Okay, let's see. Some of these cards I might look up. I've intentionally not studied this deck except for some of the cards in brief because I like to channel into the energies. If I feel called, I will pull, I'll open the book. Alright. I also have here the Medicine Heart Oracle. So we got 10 cards total, which how perfect. This is a year 10, which a lot of people are saying it's a year 1, but I know people are really quick to just jump ahead, and with the Fire Horse energy, I can see that. Strong emphasis on Jupiter and Sagittarius. Okay. Also, if you have any Pisces placements, speaking of Pisces, Jupiter is the original ruler of Pisces, and it's the planet of expansion, good or bad or neutral, whatever it is we're giving energy to. You might want to look at your Jupiter placements in your chart to see how you are expanding. But what I was saying about Pisces is perhaps I'm picking up anybody who might have Mars in Pisces. That might be, this might be specific to a few of you. It says a collective message, take which resonates and leave the rest behind, okay? So, when we are going fast, the way we don't burn ourselves out is by knowing how to ground, how to be in the present moment. It's like when you're on a train, right? It's going chugga 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 chugga. It's going, it's going, it's going, it's going. Everything is passing you by, but you're not worried about what just passed through the window. You're not worried about, oh, I just missed that perfect scenery because I was looking at this thing or that thing. You don't feel like you're missing out. You're a part of the movement, but you're still within yourself. You're typically sitting. You're having a mindful moment or a conversation. You're a part of something while everything is speeding forward. Some of you are gaining great momentum here, hence the storm and the threshold. That I could also have the double meaning of you are about to blast through a storm for some of you, and others of you are the storm, and you're showing people how to overcome intensity or utilize it as power to cross thresholds, to jump timelines, to shift. Yeah, and the shapeshifter coming out again, but it was in reverse, though these cards I don't typically read in reverse. They're round oracle cards. But that does say something to me. The energy has transformed. If you enjoyed that message or it calls to you, do check it out. And by all means, I don't really care about likes, but the algorithm does. So if you want our community to grow, you want the messages to get out to more people in the community, or you just want me to keep creating, your support by doing that simple action does make my content more relevant in the algorithm. So thank you. Thank you if you've been a supportive contributor. I just split the deck on 35, light rising in the east. We'll get back to the shapeshifter. Hang with me, I am channeling here. I'm a psychic medium empath, by the way. And number 19, Lou. That is from the Medicine Heart Oracle Pocket Edition. Now, I'm going to actually set those aside, and we'll look at those later. I feel like they're going to be relevant. Let's put those there. If you like to see all the images of the cards, I always make an accompanying blog for every video. I also do singing videos if you want to entertain yourself, transmute with me. I'm also an emotional alchemist, so I use music and creativity to transmute. I know something about the dark night of the soul, spiritual awakenings, all that. And I am on the other side of it. 3 of them actually, 3 and a few ascensions over the last year. So if you're looking to grow, expand, and really learn how to stabilize and anchor into that chaos so you don't lose yourself or so you find yourself, definitely consider subscribing. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, so with the train, we were talking about, like, ooh, got chills. Somebody's resonating. That's cool. For those of you that work with energy, if you haven't learned that you have to ground your energy consistently in order to anchor in and hold the energy you are channeling or working with or reading, definitely start doing that. I suggest once a day or twice a day. There's multiple ways you can ground. So to each their own. If you'd like to share in the comments how you ground, how you find your anchoring in, please do. You know, share amongst yourselves. Get some dialogue going, okay? The Temple, Aletheia, Thanatos, the Shapeshifter, the Castle, the Mentor, the River, the Healer, and then the bonus cards, the Threshold and the Storm. Okay. The Temple, to me, obviously, is about sacred space. And this Aletheia, again, I don't know the significance of this yet because I haven't looked it up in the book, nor Thanatos. However, they both have very Greek energy to me. Some of you may have Greek ancestry or Greek deities. I'm a non-denominational channel, so all faiths and beliefs are welcome here. Shapeshifter, some of you know how to move around in different energies, circulate, look at different beliefs, study different ways of finding the sacred. By the way, grounding in nature is a great way to do that. The key is the side channel or personal experience. For me, the key is to find that sacred space within yourself. And this is not an easy task. This is something that requires bravery, it requires courage, it requires consistency. And your consistency may not be somebody else's consistency. Let me tell you, in a culture or cultures, different societies in our world, hypermasculinity is very normalized, especially those that have very capitalistic societies. I'm not hating on capitalism, I'm just making an observation, okay? I am somebody who used to bust my butt and work and work and work, and I came from a middle class, lower middle class family where that is what my parents did. They worked and worked and worked and worked. And I won't get into too much more personal details, but I'll say I had to learn from burnout, and I had to break certain karmic family cycles in order to allow myself to have rest. It's like that little jingle I was singing. I'm a resting 'cause it's a blessing, not a lesson. For some of you it is a lesson, and I learned that lesson. I used to, especially if you come from an upbringing, however you want to look at that, or culture or different living situations, different social groups that make you feel guilty for self-care, that make you feel like you can't calm down, you can't stop. And this typically comes from having authority figures in your life that either lived by that example of victimizing themselves by never resting and then blaming others for their hyper independence, which actually was obstructed codependence on the necessity of them. There was a point in my life where I was very much in my toxic masculine, and I had to learn eventually over time that it's okay to ask for help. And if your community and those around you make you feel bad for asking for equal give and take for even the smallest contribution, they're not your community. If they don't want to change and they expect you to continue to burn yourself out and you allow it, that's a toxic paradigm. You don't have to keep doing that if you're not happy. You can find a way. This is coming from somebody who, without going into too much of my personal history, I spent over a handful of years chronically ill. And coming from being somebody who worked really, really hard all the time, and sometimes 2, sometimes 3 jobs, it wasn't until I got sick and started having other health issues that I had to break my own pride. I had to ask for help. And again, when you're in an environment where people expect you to continue doing almost everything, and then they resent you for asking for the simplest things, you realize you're not being taken care of. And if you're brave enough, you go into the shadow and you realize, okay, I teach people how to treat me. So I know that these people met me when I thought it was okay to disrespect myself in this way and not be balanced and not be taken care of. And it probably started with my authority figures, with my family of origin. And it came from a trauma response. It came from a nervous system that never rests. And then that became guilt. And you repeat these cycles in your life where you just do. And then there's the precious, interesting, precious, my precious. There is this pressure to have the precious, the material, right? Well, let me ask you something. What is more valuable to you? That new, for example, phone every year, or 15 minutes a day, every single day for a year of pure peace and self-love? Ask yourself that. You got the temple here over the castle, the sacred space, your home within yourself. The mentor and the river and the healer. Hidden wisdom is flowing to you. The healer. Is your wisdom poison or is it medicine? You're speaking of ancestral lineage and karmic cycles and what was expected of you. Look at your relationships. How have you ended up dating the same kind of people or having the same kind of friends? No matter where you go, no matter where you live, where's it a mirror reflection of the pieces of you that don't feel like home, don't feel like a safe space? What are the red flags behind that? Can you recognize that? Do you know what a mindfulness practice is? Do you know how to just be? Sometimes nothingness is the key. There's a lot of shame in our society for rest. There's a lot of misconceptions that somebody who takes time to themselves or slows down or is grounded and stable yet unique and does things their own way, that they're privileged in some way, that they're lazy, that they're not interested or ambitious. If you're doing nothing to escape from reality, then perhaps some of that could be true. I feel like some of you just got triggered. Take a deep breath. I'm an advocate and a spiritual guide. You're welcome to click off whenever you want, but if you feel like you want to stick around, please do. How do you lead by example through your own actions, by your own flow? Why are you making your healing somebody else's responsibility? Why are you letting your precious energy be drained to things that claim to fix you when really the cure is within you? How are you doing that? So yeah, inside you can be the temple or you can be the storm. Again, the lesson of as above, so below, as within, so without. You know, there's a lot of people out there who don't believe in manifestation. They don't believe in the laws of the universe, and that's okay. You know what? A lot of those people are not awake, and there's no shame on them. But to say that those things don't exist is well, it's ignorant. And, you know, ignorance isn't necessarily a slander, okay? It just means that we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? And there's, of course, the saying, ignorance is bliss. And people use that as an excuse of, oh, I don't want to know. You know, they think, oh, not knowing is better for me. That's also how you give up your mental liberty, your spiritual authority, your personal responsibility. You don't have to know everything. And in this world, there's a lot of fake everything out there. The shapeshifter. Taking off the mask. Some people have one mask they wear around everyone else, and when they come home, that mask comes off. Other people live through the mask, and then others have different masks for different social groups and different situations. And then there's those of us who don't wear masks. Sometimes we paint our face pretty, but it's our face. I want to read Thanatos from the book. I'm feeling called. One sec. Flip it to the shaman. Shaman? I never say shaman. Who says shaman? I always say shaman. For those of you that don't know what a shaman is, it is somebody who works with the soul, who heals the soul. I personally am actually on a shamanic journey. I have been slowly working on that journey, and I'm not going to discuss it at this time. It is an ongoing sacred process. And it comes from many different places in the world. It's not only an indigenous practice. In case, again, we were speaking on ignorance, you know, educate yourself. The particular shamanism that I am studying is Celtic shamanism, because that is part of my ancestry. Okay, so some of you perhaps look into the ancient practices of the healing arts of whatever part of your ancestry that you reverberate with the most. And some of you do not have the privilege of knowing your ancestry, whether you were adopted or you come from a culture where those records were not kept. I have the privilege of being able to trace one side of my family back to ancient Scottish times, to the Pict people, right? P-I-C-T, the blue people, the ancient Celtic people. However, even that culture, before the 1000s, there wasn't written documentation. You see that a lot with Germanic cultures and with people of color, where their cultures were desecrated and they lost touch with their ancestry due to enslavement, due to sacrifice, due to separation and lack of access to that culture. That there are some that are deeply woven into their ancestry. They are fortunate even coming from those backgrounds. I see this a lot with Latin cultures, where the community continues the legacy of the sacredness of the practice. Okay. So if you feel like going on a journey and you don't really know where to start, and you have an interest in spirituality, you have an interest in discovering your roots because you want to, say, get into ancestral veneration, you want to pay tribute to those that came before you. And you know, there's another thing that not everyone talks about, but if you are adopted and you have been accepted, and I'm getting heavy chills as I'm saying this, so this is resonating with some. If you come from a family where you have been loved and you've been integrated into their culture, and perhaps you, I'm feeling a grandma for some of you, were very close to them, and there was no separation between bloodlines. Because, I mean, if you think about soul family is not typically blood. It can be sometimes. We can have family that is soulmates. But some of us don't have connections with our blood family for one reason or another. Now that's a privilege if you do. It's a privilege if you have this information. Some of you are very uncomfortable about this topic. My throat chakra keeps trying to shut down the way we speak. Yeah, I just flipped to the venom. Yeah, some of you think this is poison, and I don't understand why you're still here if you feel that way, but, you know, perhaps there's something you can learn. So if you're interested in learning more, you can, even if you are adopted, I feel like you can also still be a part of that ancestral lineage, even if it's not in your blood. I'm somebody who believes that we reincarnate into different families for a reason, for some kind of soul contract, some kind of purpose, right? And not all of us have some huge purpose in our family, but some of us do. And sometimes you are the odd one out, and that can mean that you're the generational chain breaker, you're the healer, you're the odd one, you could also be the family legacy, you could be the super talented one that elevates your family to a new level, or like I said, you could be the adopted one who happens to be accepted wholly. And you know, there's some people who adopt children who just so much wanted to have the privilege of a child, and they treat their children better than some people who are blood. So if you have a connection to the heritage of your adopted family, and I feel like I'm speaking to someone specifically here, or a few specific souls, and you have access to that information, dive into it, because I'm willing to bet that it is possible that you have past life ties as a blood family member to that family. And if you don't, and you can figure these things out by journeying, you can find these things out by working with a shaman, you can find these things out by doing your own vision quests. You can if you feel a connection to the culture, you can learn so much more. I encourage you to open your mind and consider the possibilities. Okay. Now we were going to look at Thanatos. I hope that helped whoever was meant for. LXX123. I think that's 73, but I could be wrong. I want to say L is 50. Let's see here. This card is black and white. Actually, before I read the description, I will channel into it and see, but let me just pull it up real quick. I know I'm saying let me. That's such a silly thing to say. Oh, let me. Like you're going to stop me, right? The language we use, right? When you become more mindful, you think about the way you say things to yourself, and you start to realize how much our words really do hold power, and how that can change our reality and our perception of the world. Ooh, how interesting. This card's art starts off with the initiations. Speaking of initiations and shamanism and journeying, some of you are very much on that quest. Page 212 and 213. Speaking of Aquarius, happy Aquarius season. Those of you that are in real time, those are both Aquarian birthdays. Shout out to an old friend whose birthday's coming up on that day. You know who you are. Alright, so yet again, I will read into that in a second. If you look at the card, looks like it's all black and white, okay? And it looks like a web. Big web. And I see here one pair of hands holding together loosely. Looks like there is a black round piece of onyx gently sitting on top of that, or a black ball. Perhaps some of you want to look into using a black scrying ball to do your own meditations, visualizations to help you connect. Also, if you do work with spirits in a magical practice, again, those of you that know what you're doing, you already know to put up protections. But for those of you that are beginners and new to the occult, definitely learn to protect yourself before you start tapping into spirit on that level. And we were talking about the threshold up here and the storm. Don't get yourself into trouble because you don't know what you're doing. This is where not being ignorant is really important. There are a lot, speaking of magical protections, wow, magical practitioners that are new, that just decide to do it one day. They look up some spells on Google, and there's nothing wrong with the curiosity and looking in how to do spellcraft, right? But those of us that practice like a form of folk magic, there is a slow initiation that comes into it, and that can be a solitary practice, or it can be with a coven, it could be with a community. Again, it could be with your family. Your family could practice. You could have one grandma that is the family witch, you know what I mean? Like, we all start somewhere. Be careful, because there are so many different forms of witchcraft, and there is light and there is dark and there is in between. And if you don't know your own energy and you don't know how to keep that balance or what your objective or intentions are, I would suggest you study, you find a mentor. The mentor card is down here with the owl, occult knowledge, Lilith. Now listen, We're not talking about the demon of Christian belief, Lilith, though she was in the Bible considered the first woman, and she was demonized, literally, because she didn't want to be a product of Adam. She was her own individual self. And Eve was created from Adam's rib. Eve was considered the makeup of Adam, a byproduct of Adam. And you could take that on a very feminist journey there if you wanted to. Or you could just look at it with equality of how men and women have been separated. And we were talking about the division or the balance between the masculine and feminine energies of each and every one of us, which we all contain. Now, whether those are imbalanced or not, it's typically not so. It takes a certain level of mastery to come into balance. Look at the Lover's card in the tarot if you want to understand more and look into that. I spoke on that in the last tarot quest, I believe. Anyways, just channeling and letting whatever comes through come through. This card, there is also what looks like a mangled hand that almost has claws coming out of it. So it's almost like it's not quite human. There's another hand above that. And this is in the center of the round oracle card. It's got its hand out almost like it's going to shake someone's hand. Ooh, I just heard something. Shaking hands with the devil. That's interesting. Some of you are not open-minded to the craft, and that's all right if you're still here. Well, good job keeping an open mind. And remember that when we judge others, we're inviting the universe to judge us back. And our projections are a reflection of our own inner self. I speak on this a lot with my channeled messages, with my writing, with my guidance. Yeah, and it almost looks like there is a creature here in stone. What is that? It's like you hold the power to receive and rest in the wisdom of the hidden. Or you can give your power away to some malicious energy. And that's, I'm not talking about dark forces, though for some that might be applicable. And I'm not putting judgment on anyone, but there is, there's different ways that you can approach the hidden. Okay. I'm going to leave that right there and let's look at the book. I'm not going to read all of this. I say this every time. I like to encourage people to go out and buy the deck for themselves. Some people will read the whole page, and that's fine. They do it their way. I am going to go with what I'm called, and over here, facing Thanatos, death. Oh, of course, death cards coming up. Transformation, rebirth, also 8th house, which also rules the occult, the hidden. 12th house Pisces, and those are both, that's Scorpio, death card, Pluto, and ancient astrology, Mars rulership. Might be significant. Both of those are mysterious water signs. Okay, so that could be significant to you, or it might be something you want to look into in your own chart. Like, what do you have in your 8th house? What do you have in your 12th house? What placements do you have Pisces in? What placements do you have Scorpio? What signs do you have in the planet Neptune, Pluto, Mars, Jupiter, if you want to look at both ancient and modern astrology, right? You could also look at what signs you have in other placements that have to do with those planets and whatnot. Astrology is endless. You can literally approach a birth chart in over 4,000 different ways. So no astrologer is wrong, no practice is wrong. It is a universal system that has been around since ancient times. I'm hearing for some of you, look into Mayan culture for ancient spiritual systems. There's actually a free documentary on YouTube. I don't know if it's still free. I watched it around the holidays on the truth of the spirituality of the Mayans. I wish I could remember the name of the documentary. I feel like it came out in the last couple of years, so do a Google or YouTube search on that. It's a really beautiful documentary. That was relevant to someone. So Thanatos, death, leads us to Aletheia, truth. Okay, so that's interesting because we pulled both Aletheia first, truth, and then death, Thanatos. Very interesting. And truth here, again, subjective, dualistic. This oracle card here, Aletheia, has like a beam of black and white lines around the oracle card, and in the center is a diamond shape or a square upside down. White on the right, black on the left, which again makes me think of our modern association with the feminine being dark, the masculine being light, the feminine being hidden like the moon, the light being the masculine like the sun. Masculine is assertive energy, feminine is receptive, and this is not gender. Those of you that follow tarot and esoteric and wisdom, you know this is not about gender. It's interesting, I believe some cultures in ancient times actually had it reversed, where the sun was representative of the feminine. And if you think about it, the feminine, sure, it's the womb, but the feminine nurtures, it shines a light on beauty, it helps things grow. So in a lot of ways I can see these old perspectives of the feminine actually being the light, and the masculine being the one that is protective, that will go into the dark to defend that which is its own. So perhaps that's a perspective shift for somebody to consider, especially with doing shadow work. I'm hearing, especially with this black and white, this duality. Again, the Lover's card is coming up, but this card is talking about truth, right? So we're talking about the dual nature of truth. And I'm hearing there are two sides to every story, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle. And here on this card we have what looks like a little purple cutout oval shape, the top, middle, well, depending on which side of the card you look at. Yet again, it's about perspective, right? And it looks like it actually does have a glowing sun in the middle, just like if you were to look at the sun. Don't do that, but you know, I mean, typically not a great idea. We know this, right? Some people believe it is a good idea. I'm not advertising that. I'm just, again, different perspectives. Point is that sunspots is a synchronicity for somebody, by the way. Some of us look into the light for the truth, and some of us find it in the dark, I'm hearing. So you can also be blinded by the truth, right? And what does that mean? Our triggers. If we hear something that is true that we are not prepared, and awakeners do this to people all the time. I know, I'm a walking mirror. I'm also a seer, so I instantaneously reflect back to others, and also I'm a channel, I'm a psychic. I pick up on energy, and I used to not realize I had this gift. It used to be a curse because I didn't understand what I was doing. People just thought I was being critical when really I was seeing into their soul. And if you're willing to do the work and you're ready to do that work, it's a blessing. But if you aren't, it's a shake-up, it's a tower moment, right? It's death, it's the end to one way. We don't always get a choice when we are awakened, right? And if you're on a spiritual journey, you're in a spiritual awakening, you may have felt like you lost your power in some way due to this process. But I assure you, you're only just beginning to find it. So at the bottom of this truth card, we'll call it, which I'm seeing the justice card in my mind's eye, right? There could be some Libras here as well. It's very possible. It's a Libra card. Truth, justice, balance, equality. I'm also hearing Maat, the Egyptian deity, holding the scales of justice, balancing, weighing people, right? So there's emphasis in justice and finding justice in truth, I'm hearing. And death represents a big ending, right? We're not talking about physical death, but sometimes we do find truth through the death process. Those that work in the death industry probably have more profound understanding of truth than anyone else. It can be finite, it can be, obviously it's finite, but I mean the process, the grief process, those that witness death, and I'm not talking about the literal dying process, though there are those professionals that do that. There's death doulas, there are, speaking of 8th house Scorpio, right, this is going very much into the taboo. For those of you that don't know, when Pluto, when it started going into Aquarius, before it was fully in, but it was kind of getting close and the transit was getting closer, it's about, I want to say near the end of 2021, part of my chart got lit up. And it, for people who have seen my transformation, which Scorpio Pluto rules, right, death and rebirth, right, it subtly started around that time, which is also around the time I established my business. It's also the time, around the time my health got worse and I started to go into a metaphorical yet not so metaphorical dying process that took years. And my physical health kind of represented this this kind of soul death I went through. But what's interesting, what was tapped on during that time, I'll also mention that I have a Scorpio South node, so my past life, what I came into this life with, my gifts, also my what I'm moving away from, right? Because your North node is your destiny, it's your purpose. So my past life, my past is Scorpio. My gifts come from transmutation, transformation, but it's not where I'm supposed to stay. However, it can be, yet again, poison or medicine. Very seeing the Scorpio in my mind's eye, the scorpion, right? Because some of you don't know, and I'm not telling you to play with this, but there are certain cultures that use the medicine from the venom of scorpions, just like plant medicine and other venomous creatures, because they know how to work with it to create medicine, right? There's also a folk knowing saying that I say a lot because I'm also an herbalist. The difference between poison and medicine is dosage, right? So how much truth can you handle? Do you know your threshold over here? Do you know what triggers you? What causes your storm, right? So this part of my chart that was lit up, and I have no trouble talking about my astrology because I like to teach people through my own experience. It's not something you see everywhere, and there's a reason why you don't see that. And I'm going to say it now because in some ways I did have to learn the hard way, but I knew that was a risk and I took it. And then I elevated and I got more protection, so I'm not so worried about it anymore. However, people can target, if you are in the spiritual field, if you are spiritual person who works with different energies, especially if you are a channel, you are a psychic, you are a medium, you are a reader, right? If you are not protecting yourself, people can target certain aspects of you, and one way people can do that is through your birth chart. I have actually had this happen to me, and then I got more protection, and we're all good now. So here we are, back on track. The part of my chart that I'm talking on, and we were talking about Jupiter earlier, right? I have Jupiter in Aquarius in the 8th house. We're talking about 8th house is Scorpio, right? And Jupiter is expansion. And Aquarius is the unknown. They're kind of the, and we are in Aquarius season, so this is appropriate. If you're watching this or listening, however you want to phrase it, at a later time, we're talking about the Aquarius energy. And Pluto went into Aquarius for about 20 years roughly. So there's this huge collective energy of transforming through the unknown and also into our communities, because Aquarius also is represented by the 11th house, which is talking about community, right? So me having that expansion in Aquarius in the 8th house means I go woo woo doop, that's a new one, woo woo deep over here. Okay, so I am a bit of a master of the taboo, or I'm becoming one, all right, because that is something that Scorpio rules. So I am expanding only deeper into the occult, into the unknown, and I'm doing it in a very unique way, and that's what Aquarius represents. So it might actually help you to look at where you have Aquarius in your birth chart if you are looking at what makes you unique, or how you engage with your community, or what is being transformed for you, because we're talking about the collective transit of Pluto in Aquarius, right? And some people are calling it the real age of Aquarius. So we're looking at how we transform in our communities, how we transform with the unique. And oftentimes the shaman, very much to me, is Aquarius. It's that oddball on the outskirts of society, and I don't say that as disrespect. High five. I'm one of those oddballs. I live on a mountain way out from a lot of people, so hey, fellow freaks, love ya. Look at these aspects in your chart to go deeper, to understand your soul, okay? For me particularly, it is touching on my Jupiter placement, which is in Aquarius, right? And in the 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio and Pluto. So you can see that effect there, right? So ever since that started going on for me, I started having death and rebirths in my community. And of course, it was just a year after the shutdown, right? And I was also going through serious illness. So there was this transformative process for me of finding myself. And it's interesting because when Pluto actually went into Aquarius officially, it wasn't just gearing up to go in it or going back and forth, doing this little dance for a little while. That's around the time that I actually lost my entire community. I'm talking about every social group in my life. And that's a whole personal story that I've talked about in my documentary, which is currently unlisted. You can still find it if you want to hunt for it, but I took it off public view because I'm also a writer, and I'm integrating it into some projects I'm working on. Anyways, there's a lot of correlation between the self-study, between breaking ignorance, between looking into culture, into different alternative forms of medicine, into different healing. And when you feel safe within yourself and your knowledge, any knowledge or truth coming at you from the outside is not going to create a storm, is not going to trigger you. And the thing is we continue to get triggered until we aren't triggered by something anymore. That's how you break it, right? You re-experience it over and over. Now you can continue to shut it out. You can close your eyes to it. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I'll let you know that when you reach a certain level of awakening, there is no going back. Still with me? Cool. I feel like we've been going a lot longer than I expected to with this. It's kind of late here, so I think I'm going to get to bed here soon. I do want to read a little more of Thanatos. Let's see here. Interesting. I was just talking about this. There are those with a great gift for navigating Thanatos energy. Thankfully, we find these generous souls in emergency rooms, hospitals, hospice centers, and the like. Also, something that people don't like to talk about is funeral directors, morticians, and again, death doulas. A little something interesting, and this will kind of pique your curiosity if you know anything about astrology or you have an interest in the occult or the hidden or death aspects or whatever. I come from a family of funeral directors. I was born and raised in the industry. And I haven't talked a lot about this because, one, for respect for the profession, there is a lot of misinformation and terrible stigma out there, especially in the States. I don't know how it is in other countries. There are some countries who revere this as a sacred practice. That's kind of where death doulas come from. And it's somebody who will sit there with the dying process and show up as support for those that need that graceful exit, and I'm not talking about assisted, okay? That's not where I'm going with that, so don't go there, please. If you want to have conversations about that in the comments amongst yourself, go for it. Open up new conversations. Just be balanced, be fair, and remember that half the time the nastiest comments are actually not real people. They are what do you call it? Bots. Yeah, I found that out. So also, if you're a content creator and you go through your comments, just don't do it. Again, half the nastiest comments are actually bots, and that's kind of, it's kind of sad to think that that's a thing, but you know, we're not going to talk about that right now. Anyways, the whole dying process and the community around that, and then the occult and the hidden and everything. It's possible some of you are in the profession, and I'm picking up on that strongly, or you have strong Scorpio in your placements. But yeah, the one thing I learned, and I wasn't just raised in the industry, I actually worked in the industry, not just the funeral, but also this cemetery industry. Okay, so I've done both, and I can tell you that one of the best things about that profession, and one of the worst things, was the grieving process. That it takes somebody deeply empathetic to be able to be a bit of a grievance counselor, to be able to show up for others in one of their most difficult times. And when you understand that transformative process, you don't judge people as much. But if you don't have the stomach for it, and I'm not talking about dealing with the dead so much in this. Funeral directors are much more an outward thing. It's like, you know, and not across the board. I can go into this another time. If you want me to do a vlog on this, leave a comment, I'll consider it. Like I said, I don't typically check the comments, but I do engage more on the community posts tab on the channel page. That's where the blog is. So I'll probably see a comment over there if you are really interested. Or you can email me, share your thoughts, as long as they are productive. And if I'm able to, I will respond. All that stuff's in the description box, okay? If you want to work with me, I have many different services you can work with me. So I'm actually going to be expanding some of my services over this year, including personal spiritual guidance packages. That's yet to come, yet to be developed. And it's not something that I'm doing right now, but it is something I can consider doing. Just reach out and let me know what you're looking for. Astrology readings, birth chart readings, tarot readings, oracle psychic readings, energy readings. I also make curios and natural herbal products from my apothecary, which is why my business name is called HERBCRAFT by Ellie Apothecary. So there's a lot of things to share here. And I think as far as this read here and everything we went into, there's so much to discover here. But in case you forgot, we did pull 2 cards from the Medicine Heart Oracle, so I want to get into that. Also, yes, you can look at the shadow side of death work, however you want to call it, in that industry. But there's already too much of that out there. I'm here to shed light on it, not darkness, because I have to say most of the people that I met in the industry or I was raised around, and most of my experiences, I mean, who's seen the movie My Girl? It's just one example of kind of a normalized version of that, right? And of course, if you have a fear of death, I doubt you're still listening to this reading, but kudos to you if you are. Again, let me know if you're interested in having me expand. So, card 35, Light Rising in the East. Interesting. And this card has a very antiquated looking feminine appearing person with short wavy blonde hair. I'm just going to use she, her pronoun, but apply it how it fits. It's feminine. It could be a feminine aspect of you. It doesn't have to be a woman. It's just what the card looks like, okay? It's how it's presenting. She's got this like far away look on her face, and shooting off to the side is, well, it kind of looks like peacock feathers, the tops that almost look like little hearts. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like the black part, not the pretty part that everybody thinks of when you think of peacocks. It looks like that, or some kind of plant, maybe like an ivy. I think there is an ivy plant that looks like a heart. Shooting off to the side, and there's this beige background, and again, these colors are very antiquated, very sepia tone. I get this feeling it's like somebody kind of stuck in time, and there are these things going on in the background that are growing, and this could represent thoughts. Again, east can represent air element, which can represent intellect, right? Card's name is Light Rising in the East, so perhaps shining a light on your intellect, shining a light on your thoughts. This person seems to be very disconnected and not really aware, so some of you would definitely benefit from mindfulness practices. So the card says, light is returning to your world. This positive resurgence will evoke renewed enthusiasm and divine enrichment. The rising dawn encourages you to embrace your potential and initiate positive action, exchanging doubt for hope. All blessings, opportunities, answers, and instructions will be provided. You will take your next steps with confidence and clarity. Consider this your divine invitation to the forthcoming celebration of meaningful renewal. That was super inspirational and beautiful. Wow, that was incredible. That's also what can happen when you open your mind to the possibility of things turning out a different way than you expected, transforming your thoughts, right? We talk about that here on this channel. Again, subscribe if you're interested. All right, the second card might resonate with others. Again, this is the Medicine Heart Oracle. Card 19, Lu, L-U. I'm going to describe the card first. And I have not pulled either of these, so when I'm reading into them, I haven't gotten acquainted with their literature yet, okay? This card, oh, there's a lot going on with this card, but it is essentially, again, a feminine-looking person. We'll just say a woman who is in the center of the card. She's got this big, crazy brown braided hair. There are two deer heads sticking out. They look very alive. And one kind of facing each direction. Above that, there are 3 blue jays, one at the top, one on one antler of one on the other. Blue jays could be significant, deer could be significant. I see sigils in the foreheads of these different deer. One represents, they both represent earth actually. So again, this very grounding energy here. Also the feminine. The feminine is associated with the earth energy. For some of you, you might have Taurus or Virgo prominent placements in your chart you may want to look at. Above her head and these deer heads that are sticking out. Again, check out the community post if you want to see a picture of these cards. I'll probably pin it down in the comments so you can just click on that link after the video premieres. It'll be down there. I'll give you a shortcut. Feel free to check out my other blogs if you want. So yeah, there is a sacred, looks like almost a lotus in geometric form above her head. It's got a red outline and a golden tone within the leaves. Behind her is different shades of beige and brown, faint other patterns in the background, and almost this bullseye target, but not quite in the middle. She also has this very unique pattern on her forehead. She's looking down, almost like at rest and prayer. And we were talking about how feminine is the receptive. And it's interesting because air is also associated with the masculine, okay? So again, active versus receptive, balance between the two different polarities, okay? The blue jays, to me, represent, well, blue jays are kind of interesting. They can be very loud and very aggressive, and they're also known for, unfortunately, kicking out other birds' babies from their nests. So they can be a little bit of a bully. They can be kind of loud. I'm picking up for some of you, you had some figures in your life. I'm hearing for a select few, 3 very loud-mouthed siblings or family members who kind of pushed you around, and this caused you to be kind of in fawn mode, which is a trauma response where you don't fight, you don't flight, and it's not quite freeze. It's when you go out of your way to appease others, to pretty much where you can't be comfortable with conflict, so you're constantly letting people off the hook for their bad behavior. You see this a lot with toxic empathy, with codependency in an unhealthy way. Hey, I am a healed codependent. I am not judging you. I'm no longer codependent. It was a very long journey, but I was at one point. So like everything I'm speaking on, I speak on with empathy. Okay, it's not an attack. It's not a judgment. Just somebody needed to hear that. Especially if you had a few really critical, loud family members, and or you were susceptible to groups kind of criticizing you or pushing you around. Now, I'm not saying that there is only negativity associated with this bird. If you know more about the blue jay and the spiritual totem associations, I would love it if you would contribute that in the comments. But that's what's coming to mind in this channel. Again, it's where you aren't comfortable with conflict, so you try to come up with a solution before, pretty much to create peace. Perhaps you were the mediator. And again, I was picking up on Libran energy. Maybe look at your Libra placements in your chart. And if you didn't know, we all have every zodiac sign in our chart. There's just different places in our chart that represent different things. So it's not all about just your sun sign. However, Libra is the mediator of the zodiac, okay? They are that harmony, that balance, that justice, right? Especially if you have Libra 4th place placements, or perhaps you have your moon in Libra. That's important for some because the moon can not only represent our emotions but also our mother influence. And the 4th house, which is typically ruled by Cancer, which is also ruled by the moon, right, is how we are at home, our family system. So if you found yourself mediating your family a lot, it could have created this internal conflict, the storm, like we see over here with the storm card. You don't see, but I see, pardon me. You felt uneasy and wanted to resolve this, right? And some of you were taught to keep the peace at all costs. I know something about that. So that can put you into the trauma responsive fawn mode. And here with like these two like epic masculine deer with feminine symbols on their foreheads of earth, right? It's like grounding in this heavy masculine embodiment. It's all up here in the head and the mind, again, connecting to the intellect. She's at rest, and she's at pause. She has all this heavy weight that she's carrying. This is for someone specific, I'm figuring here. Some of you carry deep shame about this pressure that you've had to carry. Perhaps it made you act in certain ways that you weren't proud of. And you're enlightened to this now. You understand. Okay? But it has also made you a target. Again, there's almost like a target symbol on this. Now, I don't know what this is going to relate to the card, but that's what I channeled in. So let's read it now, okay? And then we're going to say adios for the moment. All right? Thank you so much for being here. Lu. Also, Lu, L-U-G-H, is representative of the Celtic sun god. We were talking about sun-moon polarity with ancient certain cultures, but that just came to mind again, okay? Different spelling than this card. It came up, however. So the card says, you will access spontaneous spurts of swift progress and rapid healing, yet you are soul-making, creating a legacy. Did I not just say legacy? Heavy family, masculine weight, right? Which we'll go into that another time. Let me finish the card. Pardon me. Let's back it up here. Yet you are soul-making, creating a legacy of sacred beauty that requires patience and persistence. Value your process and value yourself enough to set boundaries with yourself and others. Wow, I was talking about that earlier, was I not? About how sometimes we overdo out of discomfort or feeling like we need to be in our hyper masculine energy. It's about grounding into the moment and not always doing, but being more comfortable with rest, which is the receptive feminine energy, right? So again, the card says, value your process and value yourself enough to set boundaries with yourself and others. Whatever issue may be troubling your mind or heart will not last long. A protective guiding wisdom ensures your liberation and fulfillment. Interesting. A protective guiding wisdom ensures your liberation and fulfillment. What do you think that means to you? Leave it down in the comments. Thank you for being here with me today. It was a pleasure to read for you. And if you do join the community, which I don't have memberships set up yet, but one day I will, just if you subscribe and you're happy to be here, introduce yourself in the comments here or over on the blog, whatever you'd like to do, or check out the playlist. I have the main playlist, which I'll link at the end here. It's probably already popping up, called Channeled Messages. And for all tarot readings of the long form tarot quests I do, or their shorter form versions, go to Divine With Me in the description box on the channel page. And I hope you have fun exploring. For some of you, I'm just want to assure you that when I talk about my personal experiences, it is to help guide others. It's not to put attention on me to receive sympathy. Confirmation burp, excuse me. Again, wow. Maybe I'll just cut this ending out. Bloopers at the end, bonus content. Whatever. So, in case you're wondering, I did actually overcome that severe illness, and I am no longer chronically ill. And I just want to give some of you hope out there that if you're struggling with health issues, and I'm not a doctor, I'm just saying that don't give up. Use your periods of rest, those that have chronic illness, those that have chronic pain and debilitating issues, or feel physically limited in their life in some way, or mentally limited. Use those periods of rest to not shame yourself, but to investigate how those periods of rest can better fulfill your soul. If you can concentrate and you can focus, perhaps now is a time to study. Now is a time to create. You can draw from your bed. You can, if you have a hard time reading, you can listen to audiobooks. You can ask somebody you care about to read to you. That's something really special if you have someone to do that to you. For you? Wow, that was weird. Anyways, I think I'm pretty much going to end this message here. So just some thoughts, and for the ones I was picking up on, thank you for your compassion and your curiosity. It's going to be all right, all right? The sun will come out tomorrow. All right, this is Ellie, signing off. Bye, darlings.